The casket looks far too small, impossibly small. That is the first clear thought that breaks through the numb haze as they begin lowering Owen into the earth. My 9-year-old son. My child's final resting place. My hands won't stop trembling no matter what I do. I press them against the fabric of my black dress, intertwine my fingers until my knuckles pale, shove them deep into my pockets, but nothing stills the shaking. Tears trace endless paths down my cheeks, silent rivers I no longer bother to wipe away. Each metallic groan of the pulley lowering his casket tightens the knots in my stomach until my knees threaten to give out. The cemetery worker looks at me, waiting for a sign that I'm ready. But readiness is impossible. 8 months earlier, the doctors had finally given a name to the invisible monster draining my son's strength, a rare blood disorder. They spoke the words gently, as though soft tones could make them less cruel. Owen had listened more bravely than I had. His small face, serious yet composed, as the doctor explained the endless cycle of treatments. "Will it hurt?" he'd asked with a steadiness that broke my heart. "Sometimes," the doctor replied, promising they'd do all they could to ease the pain. And he never once complained. Not through months of needles, transfusions, and medications with names that twisted my tongue. Even when fever racked his small body and sweat soaked the hospital sheets, he would look up with eyes so like his father's and whisper, "I'm okay, Mom. Don't worry, Amazade." Now, standing alone beside the open grave, I feel the ache of every absence pressing down on me. My parents, who should have been here, my sister Natalie, who once promised she'd never let me face anything alone, even Hannah, my best friend since the 3rd grade, who had stood by me through divorce yet somehow couldn't appear today. Without thinking, I pull out my phone, a reflex I immediately regret. Natalie's Instagram opens automatically, a flood of glittering photos from her engagement party at the Grand Horizon Hotel. It's happening right now. In one shot, she holds a champagne glass high, diamond flashing, our parents radiant beside her. The timestamp reads 20 minutes ago. 20 minutes before I watched the minister's words drift uselessly across the wind. "Are you doing all right, dear?" Angela's soft voice breaks through. My elderly neighbor stands beside me, her lined hand resting gently on my arm, her gaze full of compassion. For 18 months, she had brought homemade meals when I was too drained from hospital visits to cook. She had watched over Owen so I could shower or sleep. Never once did she treat his illness as an inconvenience. "They didn't come," I whisper, barely forming the words. "Not one of them." Memories crash over me, Owen's laughter, bright and unrestrained, echoing through the kitchen. His proud declaration at 7 years old that he would become a doctor to fix kids like me someday. His insistence on wearing superhero pajamas to every chemo session because superheroes are brave, even when they're scared. "That boy loved you more than anything in this world," Angela murmurs. I nod, thinking of Daniel, my ex-husband, who had set up an $850,000 college trust fund for Owen before his company transferred him overseas. "If anything ever happens," he'd said, "you're the residual beneficiary. I know you'll honor his memory." He couldn't have known how soon those words would matter. Part of me wants to call my parents, to scream until my voice breaks, to ask how they could choose Natalie's party over their grandson's funeral. Another part of me feels hollow, emptied beyond anger. I spent 18 months fighting for Owen's life, memorizing every medical term, battling doctors who ignored symptoms. Now there is nothing left to fight for. My phone buzzes again. My mother's name flashes across the screen. "We need to talk. Bring the trust documents tomorrow." I stare at it twice, certain I've misread. They skipped their grandson's funeral, but now they want his trust fund? Something cold slices through my grief, sharp, clear, analytical. Something doesn't add up. I type back slowly, "I'm burying my son today. I can't talk about paperwork right now." Her reply comes instantly. "Don't be dramatic, Lena. This is important for the whole family." The whole family. The same people who couldn't spare 2 hours to say goodbye. Reality hardens around me like ice. This isn't just about money. It's about the last piece of my son that still exists, his legacy, the future he never had. And I suddenly know that I stand alone. My parents, Natalie, even Hannah, they're together in this, planning something while I'm broken and defenseless. Angela watches my expression change. "What is it?" she asks. I show her my mother's message. Her face tightens with quiet fury. "Oh, dear," she whispers. "They can't possibly think." I turn off the phone completely. Whatever they want can wait. This moment belongs to Owen, and I will not let them steal that too. Angela's hand rests reassuringly on my shoulder. "You're not alone, dear." "I'm here." The cemetery worker approaches carefully. "I'm sorry, but we need to finish the service." My eyes fix on the casket suspended above the earth. How am I supposed to walk away? To leave him here? My body refuses to move. Angela steps between us. "Give her a moment, please." She's saying goodbye to her boy. The worker nods and steps back, honoring the space she protects. I reach into my pocket and pull out Owen's favorite action figure, the one he carried to every hospital visit. Kneeling, I set it gently atop the casket. "I'll protect what's yours," I whisper. As I rise, something within me changes. Through the suffocating fog of grief, a faint spark flickers to life. I don't yet know what tomorrow will demand of me, but one truth burns bright: they will not take my son's legacy without a fight. The morning after the funeral breaks gray and damp, the sky weeping softly as I drive toward my parents' colonial-style home in Oakwood Heights. I grip the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turn the color of bone. Each mile toward my parents' house tightens my chest until it's hard to breathe. The thought of seeing them after yesterday, after they chose Natalie's engagement party over Owen's funeral, makes my stomach twist. When I pull into their long driveway, I spot a familiar silver BMW parked neatly by the curb. Hannah's car. Of course she's here too. The front door opens before I even reach the steps. My father stands there, framed by the entryway, his expression carefully arranged into one of fatherly concern, but the warmth doesn't reach his eyes. "Lena, come in. We've been waiting." Inside, the living room feels more like a negotiation chamber than a home. Natalie sits straight-backed on the cream sofa, legs crossed at the ankle, her perfectly styled blonde hair gleaming under the chandelier. Beside her, Hannah pretends to study her manicure, refusing to meet my gaze. My mother hovers near the mantel, one manicured hand resting on a framed photo of us all smiling, a lie preserved in glass. No one mentions Owen. No one says I'm sorry. My father moves to the mahogany coffee table, where a folder sits open and organized with unsettling precision. "We need to reallocate the trust," he says, sliding a document toward me. "Natalie will act as trustee. Sign here and here." I don't touch the pen. "What are you talking about?" Natalie uncrosses her legs, her tone polished and patronizing. "Lena, you're in no condition to handle this kind of money right now. We're trying to help you." My mother steps closer, her voice syrupy with feigned sympathy. "You've always been impulsive when it comes to money, dear. Remember that boutique idea after college? Thank goodness your father stopped you." I glance at Hannah, searching for any flicker of loyalty, but she avoids my eyes, her silence sealing her choice. "We've already spoken with Daniel's lawyer," my father adds, tapping the papers. "Given your mental state, he agrees this is the prudent course." The words hit harder than I expect. My hands shake as I pick up one of the pages, legal terminology about mental competency evaluations. Then another page, research on trust law dated 14 months ago. 14 months ago, when Owen had first been hospitalized. "You've been planning this since he got sick," I whisper, the realization slicing through the fog. "While I was sitting next his hospital bed, you were figuring out how to take his money if he died." Natalie exhales dramatically. "You're exaggerating again. That's exactly what we're worried about, your instability." My father slides another document across the table. "If you won't sign, we'll have to petition for guardianship. The court will understand that grief has clouded your judgment." And suddenly everything falls into place. They'd dismissed Owen's illness for 8 months, insisting I was overreacting. Now I see why. They'd been positioning themselves for this. Preparing. Flashes of memory sting. My mother's voice 10 months ago. "It's probably just anemia, Lena. You worry too much." My father insisting. "Doctors are exploiting your anxiety. He just needs vitamins." Natalie refusing to visit the hospital because those places are depressing. He'll recover soon anyway. A folded blueprint catches my eye under the papers. I pull it: free renovation plans for Natalie's new home. A $200,000 kitchen remodel, a home theater, a luxury pool with a waterfall. You never even visited him, I say, my voice steadying with anger. Not once in 8 months. Natalie tilts her head bored. We all grieve differently, Lena. Some of us just handle it better. Her words are knives, casual and cold. For the first time, I see them clearly, not as my family, but as people who see Owen and me as disposable, useful only when convenient. Why no? I ask quietly. Why the rush? They exchange looks. A silent, familiar language passes between them, one that has always excluded me. Natalie finally speaks. You deserve the truth. Aaron's development company is having temporary cash flow issues. The wedding might be postponed unless we secure funding. My mother toys with her pearl necklace. And there's the Hilton Head property. The market turned. We're overextended. My father softens his tone to that practiced calm he uses in business meetings. We're not the enemy here, Lena. We're family. Families help each other in hard times. Hannah's voice trembles when she finally joins in. My divorce will be finalized next month. Natalie promised me a position at Aaron's firm. I have the twins to think about. Please understand. And I do, not with sympathy, but with horrifying clarity. They're not villains from a storybook, just desperate people willing to sell me out to protect their comfort. If you refuse, my father warns, we'll have to take stronger measures. His tone cracks, revealing the threat beneath. My mother reaches for my hand, tears shimmering that never reach her heart. After everything we've done for you and Owen. A bitter laugh rises in my throat. What exactly have they done? Sent birthday cards with $20 bills? Occasional phone calls dressed as concern? Don't make this harder than it needs to be, my father says, voice hardening again. You're not thinking clearly. Natalie checks her watch. We need this resolved within 60 days before Aaron's financing deadline. And then I see it, the truth laid bare. They don't care about Owen's memory. They need the money. Now. I gather the papers neatly into the folder. I need time to think, I say, my voice calm. I turn toward the door. Lena. My father's tone sharpens like the crack of a whip. Don't walk away from this table. I close the front door behind me with deliberate finality. In my car, I lean forward, pressing my forehead to the steering wheel as the weight of betrayal crashes over me. My phone vibrates, a message from Angela. How did it go? I'm here if you need to talk. Before I can answer, another call comes through, Daniel's parents. My hand trembles as I accept. Lena, dear, Grace says softly. We just heard about Owen. We're so sorry we couldn't be there. We were in Europe and didn't get the news until now. Henry's voice breaks in, raw with grief. We loved that boy more than anything. Their sorrow sounds real, the kind that aches, not performs. Nothing like the cold calculus I just left behind. As I hang up, one memory surfaces, Daniel telling me once, if you ever need help with the trust, call Peter Ashland. He's the best attorney in the state. For the first time since the funeral, a fragile spark flickers inside me. I am not as powerless as they think. And I am no longer alone in this fight. Angela, who had witnessed my devotion to Owen every single day. Daniel's parents, who loved him without conditions. And now Peter Ashland, the one person who understood exactly what Daniel had intended for his son's trust. I start the car, my hands steady for the first time in days. The decision is made. I won't face this war alone. I scroll through my contacts until I find his number. Mr. Ashland's office, a receptionist answers. I need to speak with him immediately, I say, surprised by the strength in my own voice. It's about the Owen Whitmore Trust. Later that afternoon, I walk into the polished quiet of Peter Ashland's law office, all dark wood, brass fixtures, and the faint scent of leather-bound books. The contrast between the calm professionalism of this place and the chaos of my home life makes my head spin. I clutch the folder of documents so tightly that my knuckles pale. 2 sleepless nights of online research about trust law hadn't given me clarity, only confusion. I didn't know what rights I had or how my own family could even attempt to take Owen's legacy from me. When Peter's assistant ushers me inside, he rises from behind his mahogany desk. He's older than I expected, silver hair, wire-framed glasses, a kind but measured gaze. His handshake is firm and deliberate. "Mrs. Whitmore," he says softly, "please have a seat." "I'm very sorry about your son." "Thank you," I manage, my voice rough with exhaustion. I've heard condolences on repeat all week, but his tone carries something the others didn't: sincerity. I slide the folder across the desk. "These are all the documents I have about Owen's trust. Daniel created it before he moved overseas for work." Peter opens the folder and begins reviewing each page with meticulous precision, occasionally pausing to underline or adjust his glasses. The silence stretches until I finally can't bear it. "My family wants me to sign over control," I explain. "They say I'm too unstable to manage the money because I'm grieving." My throat tightens. "They didn't even come to Owen's funeral." Peter looks up sharply. "They didn't attend?" "No. My sister Natalie had her engagement party that same day. My parents and my best friend chose to go to that instead." He exhales and removes his glasses, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "I remember when Daniel set this trust up. He was very particular about his intentions." He opens a desk drawer and retrieves a manila folder marked with Daniel's name. My breath catches. "Daniel was one of my more thorough clients," Peter says, sliding a notarized document toward me. "This is his written statement of intent." I unfold the paper and see Daniel's handwriting, careful, deliberate. "This trust is to secure Owen's future and, if the worst occurs, to provide for Lena, who sacrificed everything for his care." The words blur as tears fill my eyes. Even an ocean away, he had prepared for this, for the unthinkable. "There's more," Peter adds, turning his computer monitor so I can see a spreadsheet. "These are our office's phone records from the past year." My stomach sinks as I recognize the numbers: my parents' landline, Natalie's cell. "They contacted you?" I ask, the anger creeping into my tone. "Not me personally," he replies evenly. "They called asking about trust provisions and beneficiary law." My assistant flagged the calls because she recognized the names from Daniel's file. "They never got through to an attorney here." The truth slices through my grief like a cold blade. So they knew. They were preparing for this before Owen even passed. "It appears that way," Peter says grimly. "But let me reassure you, Daniel's trust was built with multiple legal safeguards. It specifically prevents interference from extended family. They have no legal authority to seize or alter these funds. The trust is airtight." For the first time in weeks, the crushing pressure on my chest eases. "So they can't take it?" "Not legally," he confirms. "But they might still try, through manipulation or by questioning your mental fitness." I think of my mother's cold text message at the funeral, Natalie's calculated expression, my father's quiet complicity. "So I don't have to fight for the trust itself," I say slowly, the realization forming like armor. "I just need to prove what they're trying to do." Peter nods. "Exactly. Documentation strengthens your position. Do you have anything that shows their intent?" I hand him my phone, scrolling to the funeral day messages from my mother. He reads them carefully, his brows knitting. "This is excellent evidence," he says, setting the phone down. "I suggest we bring them into a controlled meeting on your terms, in a public space. Keep the confrontation civil but visible." 2 days later, I sit at a corner table in Riverside Coffee, a manila envelope laid purposefully in front of me. The shop hums with conversation and the whir of espresso machines, the perfect buffer. Peter's words echo in my mind: public places discourage theatrics. Control the narrative from the start. Angela waits across the street in her car, my silent ally. Peter is on standby if things escalate. For the first time since Owen's diagnosis, I don't feel defenseless. My family arrives together, Natalie in oversized designer sunglasses, my parents close behind like loyal courtiers, and Hannah trailing last, guilt etched across her face. They sit without ordering drinks, clearly expecting a quick surrender. Natalie leans forward immediately, manicured hand reaching for the envelope. "So you've signed the papers? I knew you'd come to your senses." I rest my hand firmly atop the folder. "Before we talk about any papers," I say evenly, "I want to know why none of you came to Owen's funeral." My mother sighs, her tone dripping irritation. Lena, we've been over this. Natalie's engagement was planned months ago. It wasn't practical to cancel. It was your grandson's funeral, I reply quietly. My father shifts uncomfortably, glancing around. We grieved in our own way. Everyone processes loss differently. I open the envelope and slide several printed screenshots across the table, Natalie's Instagram posts, each time stamped during Owen's burial. Laughter. Champagne glasses raised. The flash of her engagement ring. While I was burying my son, I say steadily, you were toasting with champagne. Several customers glance over. Natalie's composure cracks. You're taking that out of context. That's not fair. I ignore her and pull out another sheet, Daniel's trust terms, the sections highlighted in bright yellow. Daniel's intentions were unambiguous. This money is Owen's legacy to me. My father reaches forward. Let me see that. I pull it back before he can touch it. I've already spoken with Peter Ashland. He has Daniel's original statement on file. The trust cannot be changed, reassigned, or accessed by anyone except me. Natalie's mask finally slips. You don't deserve that money. You'll just waste it. Her voice rises, sharp enough to draw stares. Lower your voice, my mother hisses. Why? I ask calmly, meeting Natalie's eyes across the table. Are you worried people will hear the truth? I ask, keeping my tone calm but sharp enough to pierce the air. That you tried to take advantage of your grieving sister? That you couldn't bother to attend your nephew's funeral but somehow on his college fund? Natalie's chair scrapes back as she stands abruptly. This is ridiculous. We're trying to help you. I don't need your kind of help, I say, gathering the papers and slipping them back into the manila envelope. And I'm not signing anything. Not now. Not ever. My father leans forward, his voice low and cold. You're making a mistake, Lena. We can make things very difficult for you. I meet his eyes, the years of control and condescension flashing between us like static. You already have, I reply, rising from my seat. For my entire life. But not anymore. I walk out, their silence pressing against my back like heat. Outside, Angela waits with the car running, her window lowered. When I slide into the passenger seat, she gives me a small, proud smile. You stood up to them. Good for you. My phone rings. It's Peter. I answer immediately. How did it go? He asks. Do we need to prepare for immediate legal action? As Angela drives us away from the cafe, I recount everything, the confrontation, the threats, the desperation in their eyes. Peter listens quietly before responding, his tone measured. You did exactly what you needed to. They'll likely try another angle, but you've drawn your line. That's critical. After we hang up, another call flashes across my screen, Daniel's parents. I take it. Lena, Grace says gently, we just heard everything. We're so sorry about what you're going through. We loved that boy more than anything. Henry's voice follows, thick with emotion. If you need testimony about Daniel's intentions, we'll fly in from Arizona. Whatever you need, we're here. Then another message lights my phone from Mark, a former coworker who had visited Owen in the hospital. Angela told me what's happening. Whatever you need, I'm here. For the first time in weeks, I feel something shift inside me, the suffocating pressure easing, the isolation thinning. I am not alone. When we pull into Angela's driveway, I pause before getting out. Owen's school photo sits on my dashboard, the last one before he got sick, his smile wide and bright. I trace a finger over the glass. First step done, buddy, I whisper. Angela reaches over and squeezes my hand. You did wonderfully today. I nod, eyes fixed on the fading light over the rooftops. But they won't stop. Not now. They'll try something bigger next. Then we'll be ready, she says firmly. You're not alone anymore, Lena. I take a deep breath, feeling the rise of something new beneath the grief, not just pain, but purpose. They hadn't been there to say goodbye to my son. They wouldn't get to dictate what became of his legacy. 3 days after the confrontation, I'm back in Peter Ashland's office, spreading documents across his mahogany desk. My hands no longer tremble. The grief still lingers beneath my skin, but beside it now lives a cold, focused determination that feels almost unfamiliar. They'll file for guardianship, Peter says, tapping a legal brief with his pen. The smell of leather and paper fills the air, the scent of preparation, not mourning. Their best chance is to argue you're mentally unfit because of grief. I nod and lay out my notes, 18 months of Owen's illness, mapped and dated down to the day. Natalie never dirties her own hands, I say. She'll send my parents to file the petition. Maybe even Hannah. Good insight, Peter replies, genuine respect in his voice. Now we document everything, every hospital visit you made, every time they refused to come. I open my phone and scroll through my calendar. I have all the hospital appointments logged. I didn't miss a single one. Not even after Daniel left the country. My voice wavers for a moment, but I push on. And your parents? Natalie? Peter asks. 0 visits, I answer flatly. Not when he was diagnosed. Not when he was in isolation after the bone marrow transplant failed. Not even when the doctors said there was nothing more they could do. Peter nods. Document it all. We don't strike yet, we prepare. Evidence first. Then we move. I trace a finger over one of the medical bills, remembering how I'd spent nights learning to decode insurance forms, challenging denials, and tracking every expense to make sure Owen never went without. 8 months of constant care, and not one visit from them. Not one. Peter leans forward. Lena, understand this. It's not just about proving you're mentally competent. It's about showing the court they never cared about Owen, only about his inheritance. The truth burns, but it also hardens me. Then that's what we'll prove. For the next hour, we organize everything, hospital records, invoices, financial statements, each document becoming a layer of armor around Owen's legacy. Peter calls in a notary to witness my affidavit signatures. They'll try to twist your grief into instability, he warns. We'll counter before they get the chance. Angela kept a journal, I say suddenly. She wrote everything when she helped me, when she stayed with Owen. She told me last night. Excellent, Peter says. A neutral witness is invaluable. I've also reached out to Owen's oncologist and his teacher, I add. They're both willing to provide statements. Perfect, he says, scribbling notes. And Daniel? I called his parents. They're working with his attorney to verify Daniel's original instructions for the trust. Each move feels deliberate, strategic, like fitting puzzle pieces into place. I've installed security cameras at home too, I add quietly. If they try to confront me again, it'll be recorded. Peter's pen stops mid-note. He looks up, impressed. That's smart. Proactive. I'm also meeting tomorrow with Dr. Julia Renner, a psychiatric evaluator who can testify to my mental stability if needed. I pause, hesitating only a second before continuing. And I've been collecting screenshots. Every message where they told me I was overreacting. Every time they downplayed Owen's illness. My voice hardens as I meet his gaze. They dismissed him when he was alive. They won't get to rewrite his story now. They've created a pattern, I say slowly, staring down at the rows of documents. They minimized Owen's condition again and again while secretly planning to take his trust fund. That's exactly the kind of pattern we need, Peter replies, his tone quiet but firm. It doesn't just defend you, it exposes their motives. Outside his window, autumn leaves swirl across the parking lot, golden and crimson against the gray sky. Owen loved fall, the cinnamon-scented air, the crunch of leaves under his sneakers, the way he'd insist on gathering the brightest ones to tape on the fridge. Last October, I'd pushed his wheelchair outside the hospital so he could breathe the cold air and feel normal, if only for a few minutes. Are you all right? Peter asks gently. Just remembering, I answer, blinking away the sting in my eyes. What's next? He outlines our next steps, filing schedules, affidavits, and witness statements, when my phone buzzes with a message from Angela. Just heard from Grace at the hospital. Hannah was asking questions about Owen's treatment schedule. Be careful. My stomach twists as I hand the phone to Peter. He scans the message, his expression hardening. They're gathering ammunition. Hannah would have known your routines at the hospital, when you were there, your emotional state during treatments. His gaze sharpens. She's signed something, hasn't she? The realization lands like a physical blow. An affidavit, I whisper, claiming I was unstable during Owen's illness. Peter's silence confirms it. She was my friend since the 3rd grade, I murmur, struggling to steady my breathing. She held my hand through my divorce. She was family. Natalie is recruiting anyone who can undermine you, Peter says quietly. People who can sound credible to a judge. It's dangerous, but not insurmountable. Memories flood back, Hannah's hesitant smile at the hospital, her visits growing less frequent as Owen worsened, the discomfort in her eyes when I broke down after the doctors said the transplant had failed. She'll say she saw erratic behavior, I whisper. And she wouldn't be entirely wrong. I did fall apart sometimes. Who wouldn't? For the first time in days, doubt edges in. Maybe they're right. Maybe I am too emotional, too fragile. My hands tremble as I stare at them. Don't, Peter says sharply, voice cutting through my spiral. That's exactly what they want, for you to start questioning yourself. Before I can reply, my phone buzzes again. Another message from Angela, coming by Peter's office. Found my journals. You need to see these. Half an hour later, the door opens. Angela steps in, her silver hair neatly pinned, her expression fierce and protective. She places a stack of worn notebooks on Peter's desk. Hannah can say whatever she wants, she declares. But I documented everything. Every day you were at that hospital. Every night you refused to sleep until Owen did. Every meal I brought because you wouldn't leave his side. Her voice softens. Don't let them make you doubt who you are, Lena. That's their weapon. Her words steady me like a hand to the heart. I look from Angela to Peter and then to the mountain of evidence surrounding U.S. hospital logs, receipts, witness notes, photos. Owen's story told through facts, not their lies. You're right, I say, straightening in my chair. I need to prepare not just for legal attacks, but for character assassination. Angela's journals join our growing pile of evidence, each entry a thread in a larger truth. As I organize them, it hits me, we're not just building a defense. We're constructing a monument to what really happened. Who stood beside Owen when it mattered, and who didn't? Later that evening, after Angela leaves, I tape the final photo onto the evidence board, my parents at Natalie's engagement party, champagne flutes raised in laughter exactly 42 minutes after Owen's casket was lowered into the ground. That's the final piece, Peter says, stepping back. The wall now resembles a battlefield of truth, a detailed timeline charting 18 months of medical records, hospital bills, absence logs, financial statements, and signed witness testimonies. Will it be enough? I ask quietly, straightening one crooked page that documents Natalie's unauthorized access to Owen's medical file. It will, Peter says, adjusting his glasses. They'll file for emergency guardianship, claiming you're mentally unfit. But we've anticipated every move. This, he taps the notarized statement from Daniel's parents, makes their argument almost impossible to sustain. I trace my finger down the timeline. 18 months of hospital visits. Countless sleepless nights beside a fragile child who never stopped believing he'd get better. Every moment preserved in paper and ink. I never thought I'd have to prove I was a good mother, I whisper. You shouldn't have to, Peter replies, resting a hand on my shoulder. But people who want what isn't theirs will always rewrite the story to suit themselves. As if summoned by his words, my phone vibrates. A message from Angela. 23 neighbors signed the character petition. I smile faintly. A small victory, but every name counts. Every witness strengthens the truth. In the past week, I've turned my grief into preparation. Security cameras now record every corner of my house. I've archived every text, every voicemail, every post where Natalie subtly paints me as unstable. On her latest social media update, she asks followers to pray for family members struggling with mental health after loss. The comments overflow with sympathy. None mention she skipped her nephew's funeral. Classic smear tactic, Peter says grimly. They know they can't win in court, so they're trying to poison public opinion first. The phone on his desk rings. He answers, listens briefly, and his expression darkens. I see. Thank you. He hangs up and turns to me. That was my contact at Memorial Hospital. Someone requested Owen's complete medical records yesterday. My stomach lurches. Who? Natalie, he says. She used an old emergency contact form to gain access. The room tilts slightly. They'll twist everything, I say, my voice rising. They'll take one moment, the time I questioned a dosage, the time I cried in front of a nurse, and turn it into proof I was unstable. They're desperate, Peter replies. This breach proves it. They've crossed into illegal territory. I grip the table edge until my hands ache. What else are they doing that we don't know about? Peter opens his laptop and types rapidly. Let's find out. He turns the screen toward me, a LinkedIn message from my old supervisor. Lena, your sister called asking about your emotional stability at work. What's going on? Call me. They're calling my old colleagues, I say, disbelief giving way to fury. They're trying to destroy every part of my reputation. Peter closes the laptop, his jaw set. Then we'll hit back. I'll add a defamation counterclaim. This isn't just about Owen's trust anymore. They're attacking your name. I look at the wall of evidence again, at the photos of Owen's smile, his bravery even when hooked to monitors and IVs. If my 9-year-old son could face the unthinkable with courage, then so can I. Let them try, I say, voice steady and cold. Peter glances up. We have one thing they'll never have. I meet his eyes. The truth. And I turn back to the evidence board, determined to make sure the truth is the one story they can never bury. Every moment I spent with Owen, every decision, every sacrifice, it's all here, I say quietly, running my fingers along the rows of evidence. They can't erase that. Peter nods with approval. I'll update our legal response package to include their most recent actions. By nightfall, our strategy is airtight. Every piece of evidence cataloged, every witness statement notarized, every counterclaim drafted and ready. When we finally finish, Peter leans back, his expression resolute. The response is complete. Whatever Natalie throws at us next, we're covered. As I drive home through the empty streets, Angela calls. The new security system works perfectly, she reports. I tested it again while you were gone. Thank you, I reply, my voice thick with gratitude. She's become more family to me than anyone sharing my blood. Daniel's parents arrive tomorrow, she continues. They're bringing every document confirming the trust's original intent. You've done everything you can to protect Owen's legacy. Now we wait for them to make their move. I hang up and pull into my driveway. For the first time since Owen's death, I feel something new pulsing beneath the grief, a focused, protective anger. The fog has burned away. I'm not afraid anymore. I'm furious. And I'm ready. The next morning, the knock at my door hits like a hammer. When I open it, a uniformed sheriff stands solemnly on the porch, a thick manila envelope in hand. Lena Whitmore, he says, his tone formal. You've been served. My fingers tremble as I take it. The envelope feels too heavy for paper, too light for the weight it carries. He tips his hat and walks away, leaving me standing in the doorway, frozen. Inside, I spread the contents across the kitchen table. The header makes my stomach drop. Emergency petition for guardianship. They're not just after Owen's trust fund anymore. They want control of me. The phone rings. It's Peter. They filed, I say, my voice barely a whisper. I know, he replies. I just got the court notification. How are you holding up? I scan the affidavits. Hannah's name leaps off the page. 3 full pages of betrayal, moments twisted into accusations. She describes my breakdowns during Owen's illness, the days I forgot to eat, the night I sobbed in a hospital hallway, the morning I couldn't remember if I'd taken my own medication. Every private moment turned into ammunition. They quoted Owen's medical records, I whisper. Things I told his doctors in confidence. Natalie never should have had access to those files, Peter says, his tone hardening. That's our counter. The hospital ethics committee is already investigating. I flip to the next section, bank statements highlighting every overdraft, every late payment. 18 months of drained savings painted as financial instability. They've turned a mother's desperation into evidence of incompetence. The hearing's tomorrow, Peter says. We expected this. We're ready. But I'm not sure I am. This isn't just a legal fight anymore. It's an attempt to strip me of my autonomy, my dignity, my very identity as a capable person. The petition describes me as a grieving woman in crisis, unable to make sound decisions. I barely recognize the person those words portray. Have you seen the paper? Peter asks. I pull up the local news site and my heart sinks. There they are, my parents, posed in their immaculate living room, faces arranged into tragic concern. The headline reads, "Family seeks help for grieving mother." My father's quote sits bold beneath it. This breaks our hearts, but we have to protect her from herself. I switch to social media. Natalie's post sits pinned at the top, a photo of us as children, her arm around me. The caption reads, "Sometimes the hardest thing is helping someone you love when they can't help themselves. Please keep our family in your thoughts." Hashtag mental health awareness, hashtag family first. The comments are full of praise. Strangers calling them brave, selfless, compassionate. None of them know the truth. They've already convicted me in public opinion, I say bitterly. Courts don't rule on hashtags, Peter replies calmly. Our counterpetition is filed. Daniel's parents arrived this morning. They're ready to testify about his intentions. The hospitals issued a formal statement confirming the unauthorized record breach. I touch the silver locket around my neck, feeling Owen's picture inside. What if it's not enough? It will be, Peter says with quiet certainty. Angela's bringing over 20 neighbors to testify. Your former supervisor has submitted a character statement. Dr. Mercer provided an affidavit commending your medical decision-making during Owen's care. My phone pings a message from Angela. We're all set for tomorrow. The whole block's behind you. For the first time since the sheriff's knock, I feel the fear begin to crack. Beneath it, something steadier flickers, determination. They weren't there, I say, my voice hardening. Not one of them. Not for a single chemo session, not for one transfusion, not for the nights his fever hit 104, and I thought I'd lose him. Peter continues. We've also submitted the footage from your doorbell camera, the recording of your mother and Natalie trying to enter your home while you were meeting with me. I remember the video vividly, their hands on the doorknobs, peering through windows like burglars instead of family. We're hitting back with everything, Peter says. The restraining order is included in the counterpetition. I stare at the stack of papers before me, their lies printed on official letterhead, stamped and sealed with government authority. Tomorrow, a judge will read those words and decide who I am. Get some rest, Peter advises. Tomorrow will be intense. But rest never comes. I sit awake, reviewing my testimony for the fourth time. At 9:48 p.m., my phone buzzes with a doorbell camera alert. Natalie stands alone on my porch. I hesitate. I could ignore her. But something deep inside tells me I need to face this. I start recording on my phone and unlatch the door chain just enough to see her face. What do you want, Natalie? She looks different tonight, softer, her eyes glistening, her voice trembling in a way I've never heard. For a moment, she almost seems human again. Can I come in? Just to talk, she asks gently. No. Her shoulders sag, and her voice drops to a pleading whisper. Lena, please. This doesn't have to be so public. So ugly, I say, my voice steady but cold. You made it public when you gave that interview. You made it ugly when you broke into Owen's private medical records. Natalie's eyes flick toward the security camera. She knows it's recording. Her tone stays sweet, but her words curdle the air. I'm offering you one last chance to avoid public embarrassment. Drop your opposition to the guardianship petition. Sign over control of the trust to me as administrator. We'll withdraw everything, and no one ever has to know about your episodes. The word drips like venom. Episodes. I echo. Her lips curve faintly. The night you called Hannah at 3 a.m, hysterical about Owen's breathing. The time the hospital nearly called child services because you couldn't remember his last medication dose. Her tone is honey, but her eyes are glacial. We can destroy your reputation completely. Everyone will know how unstable you really are. Something inside me clicks into stillness, a strange, defiant calm. I think you should leave now, Natalie. Her mask slips. For an instant, her face contorts with fury before the practiced sympathy returns. You think you deserve that money? You've always been the burden, the disappointment. We carried you your entire life, Lena. It's time you finally did something for this family. I close the door without another word. My hands don't shake. They're steady for the first time all day. Within minutes, I call Peter and forward him the full recording. When he finishes listening, his satisfaction is audible. Perfect. Her mask finally slipped. This is exactly what we needed. It's past midnight when Angela arrives, a thermos of tea in one hand, an overnight bag in the other. I thought you could use some company, she says, setting the tea down gently. Thank you, I whisper. Words aren't enough for what she's done for me. She takes my hand across the table. Tomorrow, we show them what real strength looks like. My phone lights up with a text from Peter. Everything is ready. Daniel believed in you. So do we. Sleep doesn't come. I find myself in Owen's room, the air faintly scented with the lemon-scented cleaner the nurses used at the hospital. His glow-in-the-dark stars still cling to the ceiling, faintly luminous in the dark. I hold his favorite stuffed dinosaur and open my locket to his smiling face. Tomorrow is for you, buddy, I whisper. For your legacy. For the first time since the sheriff's knock, I feel something that isn't fear, not just resolve, but readiness. The next morning, I walk into the courtroom with my head high. Peter is beside me, Angela close behind, and Daniel's parents following quietly. The polished wood, the echo of footsteps, the solemn hush, it feels less like a courtroom and more like a chapel where truth will finally be tested. Across the aisle, my parents, Natalie, and Hannah sit together, faces arranged into masks of concerned dignity. Their attorney, Mr. Kessler, radiates the smug confidence of someone certain he's already won. It's been 48 hours since the sheriff handed me the papers declaring I'm mentally unfit to manage my life or my son's legacy. Stay calm, Peter whispers, his hand a brief, grounding pressure on my arm. All rise for the Honorable Judge Eleanor Graves. A woman in her 60s enters, silver hair pulled tight, her expression sharp with experience. She scans the petition, her eyes narrowing. These are serious allegations, she says. I expect evidence, not sentiment. Her gaze sweeps the room. Mr. Kessler, you may proceed for the petitioners. He stands, his confidence radiating like cologne. Your Honor, this case concerns a family desperate to help a daughter and sister who has lost her grip after unimaginable tragedy. He gestures toward me. Miss Whitmore has displayed erratic behavior, made impulsive financial choices, and rejected the support of those who love her. His words drip polished pity as he lays out the portrait of a woman unraveling. When Hannah takes the stand, I grip the edge of the table. Lena changed during Owen's illness, she says softly, eyes darting anywhere but mine. She became obsessed with treatments, convinced the doctors were missing something. She called me at 3 a.m, crying, panicked. Her voice fades under the memory of those nights, Owen wheezing in the dark, my own helpless terror driving me to reach out for comfort. What she calls hysteria was heartbreak. What they call obsession was love. Then my mother takes the stand. She dabs theatrically at her eyes. We're heartbroken watching her self-destruct, she says tremulously. This isn't about money, it's about protecting our daughter when she can't protect herself. The judge's expression softens. My stomach sinks. For a terrifying second, I think she believes them. Then Peter stands. His voice cuts through the silence, calm but unyielding. Your Honor, what we're seeing is not compassion, it's manipulation. These people abandoned Lena during her son's illness, only to reappear once they learned about the trust fund. He moves deliberately, laying exhibits on the evidence table. Hospital records confirm every appointment, every treatment Lena attended. Financial records show her careful management of medical costs. Witness statements verify her dedication. He gestures to the bailiff. Now, I'd like to call Miss Rachel Kim, Hospital Records Administrator. A woman with warm eyes takes the stand. Our system shows that Miss Natalie Whitmore accessed Owen's full medical records 2 weeks ago using an outdated emergency contact form, she says clearly. That is a direct violation of patient confidentiality. A ripple of murmur spreads through the courtroom. Natalie shifts uncomfortably, color rising in her cheeks. Then Angela takes the stand. I watched Lena care for that boy every single day, she says, her voice unwavering. When he couldn't eat, she found foods he could tolerate. When he was scared, she turned his fear into hero stories. She never stopped trying. Her words hang in the air like a benediction. Next comes Daniel's father, Aaron. Though we were never close, his testimony is firm. My son made his wishes clear, he says. If anything happened to Owen, Lena was to inherit everything. She gave up her career, her savings, her life for that child. No one else has that right. The judge's expression changes, the empathy she'd extended to my mother now replaced with focused scrutiny. Your Honor, Peter says, one final piece of evidence. He plays the security recording from last night. Natalie's voice fills the courtroom. We'll destroy your reputation completely. Everyone will know how unstable you are. Then my calm response echoes back. I think you should leave now, Natalie. The courtroom falls silent, heavy, electric, undeniable, as her next words play loud and clear for everyone to hear. You were always the burden. The problem child. The disappointment. Now it's time you did something for this family. You think you deserve that money? You were always the burden. The words hit the courtroom like a gunshot. Natalie's face flushes a violent shade of red. My mother gasps, pressing a trembling hand to her mouth. My father stares rigidly forward, his jaw clenched so tightly the muscle jumps along his cheek. Judge Graves' voice cuts through the stunned silence. This court will recess for 15 minutes. When she returns, Natalie tries to recover. Your Honor, if I could just expel. Ms. Whitmore, the judge interrupts sharply, raising a hand. You will remain silent. Her eyes move to Peter. Mr. Ashland, do you have any additional evidence? Peter nods once. Yes, Your Honor. One final exhibit. He clicks the screen of his laptop, and the familiar hum of the courtroom audio system fills the air. The recording from the coffee shop begins to play, voices crisp and undeniable. My mother's voice. Once the guardianship is approved, we can settle Natalie's mortgage situation. Natalie, and the beach house repairs. The contractor needs $50,000 by next month. My father. Once we have guardianship, we can use the money however we want. Lena won't have any say. The sound of their voices fades into a heavy silence. The family's attorney fumbles his papers, clearly unprepared for the revelation now echoing across the courtroom. Judge Graves calls another short recess. When she returns, her expression has hardened into stone. I have reviewed all evidence and testimony, she begins, her voice low but cutting. This court finds no basis whatsoever for the emergency guardianship petition. What I do find, however, is deeply disturbing, a coordinated effort to exploit a grieving mother for financial gain. Natalie opens her mouth, but the judge doesn't let her speak. Ms. Natalie Whitmore, I strongly suggest you remain silent. Her gavel lands with finality. The petition is dismissed with prejudice, meaning it cannot be refiled. Furthermore, this court orders an investigation into possible perjury by Hannah Rowe and Martin and Caroline Whitmore, whose testimonies directly contradict verified evidence. I am also granting an immediate restraining order prohibiting all petitioners from contacting Lena Whitmore. The trust is to be unfrozen and secured against any future challenges. Gasps ripple through the courtroom. Natalie's composure disintegrates, her face twisting as the reality of her defeat sinks in. My mother begins to cry, not the rehearsed tears of earlier, but genuine sobs. My father sits in stunned silence, staring straight ahead. Judge Graves turns to me. Her voice softens. Ms. Whitmore, this court recognizes your extraordinary composure and resilience. You have faced unimaginable loss and conducted yourself with integrity and clarity. Your son would be proud of the way you've defended his legacy. My parents rise, perhaps hoping for reconciliation, but a bailiff steps between us. The restraining order is already in effect. Peter turns to me, his professional calm breaking into a rare smile. The system worked today, Lena. Justice was done. Angela wipes her eyes. Owen would be so proud of you, dear. Daniel's parents pull me into a gentle embrace. You've honored our grandson and our son today, Grace whispers. As I leave the courtroom, I touch the silver locket around my neck, Owen's last school photo inside. His smile beams back at me, brave and unbroken. Reporters wait outside, microphones outstretched. A month ago, I would have hidden from the noise. Today, I stop. Mrs. Whitmore, how do you feel about the court's decision? I lift my chin. Today, justice was done for my son. The cameras flash as I walk away, not just from the courthouse, but from everything that kept me trapped in grief. A week later, sunlight filters through the tall windows of a financial advisor's office. The man across from me slides a folder across the polished mahogany desk. These investment options would create sustainable funding for the scholarship program while preserving the trust's principal, he explains. I study the charts and numbers, understanding them now with a confidence I never thought I'd have. The Pediatric Hematology Fellowship has to be fully funded, I say, tapping one section. That's non-negotiable. He nods. It will be. And the restraining order? Holding firm, he replies. They can't come within 1,000 feet. My voice doesn't falter when I say, good. Family, once a word that meant belonging, now feels like a line item in a court document. The local newspaper headline reads, Mother vindicated in trust battle. Messages of support flood in. Even Natalie's former fiancé called to apologize and to say the engagement was over. My parents face possible perjury charges. Hannah lost her job after her testimony recording circulated through her firm. Outside, Angela waits in her weathered Buick, window rolled down despite the chill. All set, she asks as I climb in. All set. We drive in comfortable silence for a while, past streets that once felt heavy with memory. Never thought I could do this, I admit. Stand up to them. Build something lasting. Angela pats my hand. I knew you could. From the moment you placed that action figure on his casket and made that promise. That night, I sleep soundly for the first time since Owen's diagnosis. No dreams of sterile hospital rooms, no echoes of monitors or whispered prayers. Just sunlight and laughter, Owen's laughter, as he runs across a wide open field, whole and free. The next morning, Peter calls. The foundation paperwork is finalized, he says. The trust is completely secured. Not even the Supreme Court could touch it now. Outside my window, neighbors deliver warm casseroles and homemade bread, a meal train Angela organized. Their kindness feels less like charity and more like community, like the kind of family Owen and I always deserved. Family, I realize, isn't defined by blood. It's built by love, loyalty, and those who show up when everything falls apart. I pull out a photo of Owen, not the one from the hospital, but from before at the beach, his grin wide beneath a sun-faded cap. For the first time, I can look at it without breaking. I know what to do with your legacy now, buddy, I whisper. 6 months later, I stand in the pediatric blood disorder unit where Owen spent so much of his life. The walls are brighter now, painted with shimmering underwater murals, whales, coral reefs, and schools of fish that seem to dance across the room. A polished bronze plaque gleams near the nurse's station. Owen Whitmore Memorial Wing. A young nurse approaches, her eyes warm behind her mask. I'm Sophie Klein, the first Owen Whitmore scholar, she says, smiling. Thank you for making this possible. I can't wait to specialize in pediatric hematology. Her words tighten my throat, but this time, the tears that come are soft, not shattering. Owen's legacy lives on not in grief or guilt, but in healing. And at last, I know I've kept my promise. Owen would have been thrilled, I tell Sophie, realizing I'm smiling as I say his name. Not the fragile, grief-choked smile of someone holding back tears, but a genuine one, warm and unforced. He wanted to be a doctor himself one day. Sophie's expression softens. The foundation is making such a difference. 3 families have already received emergency housing assistance. The Owens Legacy Foundation has become everything I once wished for during those long hospital nights, an anchor for families drowning in uncertainty. We cover the expenses insurance ignores, provide emergency housing near treatment centers, and fund specialized training for pediatric nurses. Every board meeting brings new opportunities to expand our reach. Angela now serves as our volunteer coordinator, her energy and kindness binding together a network of drivers, cooks, and caretakers who support families with hospitalized children. Peter oversees every legal and structural detail pro bono, ensuring the foundation remains unshakably secure. You've turned heartbreak into hope, Daniel's mother tells me during her monthly visit. She and her husband now serve as grandparent advocates, helping others navigate the complex maze of medical systems. I find myself standing before rooms full of parents who are just beginning this journey, the late-night hospital vigils, the fear of test results, the endless waiting. The first step, I tell them, is believing you can do this. The second is remembering you never have to do it alone. My voice no longer trembles when I speak. My hands stay steady when I sign documents. The woman who once stood paralyzed beside her son's grave has evolved into someone else entirely, someone stronger. Someone Owen would be proud of. 1 year to the day after Owen's funeral, I return to the cemetery. The walk feels different now. Not a slow descent into sorrow, but a calm, deliberate path toward connection. I kneel before his headstone, laying a bouquet of fresh white lilies. The morning sun warms the granite as my fingertips trace the letters of his name. "Excuse me," a soft voice calls. I turn to see a woman approaching, her hand clasping that of a little girl, maybe 7 years old. "Are you Lena Whitmore?" she asks. I nod, standing to greet them. "I'm Laura Benton," she says, her eyes glassy with emotion. "This is my daughter, Clara. She was diagnosed with the same condition as your son last year. The specialist funded through your foundation found a treatment that worked when nothing else did. Your son's legacy saved my daughter's life." Clara steps forward shyly, her voice quiet but sure. "Thank you for helping me get better." I kneel until I'm eye level with her. "You're very welcome, Clara." Her smile reminds me of Owen's, brave and bright. Standing again, I share his story, not with the weight of pain, but with the clarity of pride. "Fighting for Owen's legacy changed me," I tell Laura. "It showed me strength I didn't know I had." Laura nods, wiping away tears. "The foundation's growing?" "Yes," I say, the confidence in my voice firm and certain. "Next quarter, we're funding new research into rare blood disorders. Angela's joining the board officially. Peter is structuring the research grants. And Daniel's parents are leading the grandparent advocacy initiative." When they leave, I stay behind for a while, pulling something small from my pocket, Owen's favorite action figure, the same one I had placed on his casket a year ago. The cemetery worker had returned it to me after the service, sensing my regret. I kneel and set it gently against the base of his headstone. "I kept my promise, Owen," I whisper. "Your legacy is safe and it's growing stronger every day." Standing once more, I feel surrounded by the unseen presence of the people who've become my real family, not through blood, but through loyalty, compassion, and shared purpose. The family that matters, I say softly, isn't always the one you're born into. It's the one that stands beside you when you need them most. As I walk back toward my car, the morning sun brushes my face with warmth. The grief that once consumed me has transformed into something else, something luminous and alive. Because sometimes the deepest betrayal can forge the strongest transformation. I'm not merely surviving anymore. I'm living, building the life that honors everything Owen taught me about courage, love, and the kind of strength that never fades.